All right, in this video, we're going to use a union attack along with SQL injection. This is going to allow us to determine how many columns are returned in the original query. Because what we're going to do is we're going to append a second query that's going to ask for columns, but the columns have to match. The number of columns that we ask in our second query need to match the same number of columns that returned in our first query. And we're going to use this using null values, and we're just going to keep asking for more nulls until we get a successful response from the application. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to click Access the Lab. Okay, so we're back to our example shop that has data down here for filtering by different categories. So we're just going to click around. Maybe we can click on some of these view details, just capturing enough traffic, essentially. Okay, so we want to determine how many columns are being returned because this is the results of a query. Is it 2 values? Is it more values? From just because we only see 2 rows in this interface doesn't mean that there's more. There isn't more being sent in that case. There we go. So that's some of the traffic that we've captured from the site. And these are the different categories here. We can see based off that parameter value, category equals, lifestyle, pets, so on and so forth. So this is the URL request that we want to hopefully modify to identify how many columns are coming back based off of what's in the lifestyle table. And we can also render it over here just to make sure we're looking at the data that we expect. So I'm going to select any of these that has the category equals. I'm going to right click. I'm going to send to repeater. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to right click to make sure URL encode as you type is selected. That's my preference. I'm then going to put a space. And remember, with URL encode as you type, it's automatically adding these pluses where the spaces are. I'm going to then type union space select space null and then dash dash to ignore the rest of the query. So let's go ahead and click send. And we get a 500 error. So what this means is that the original column has more than one row, because in my secondary SQL statement, I'm telling it to provide the results of a secondary query with one column called null. And I don't have to specify any tables. This is just known in that case. So I'm going to add another one. I'm going to say, okay, try to bring back 2 columns from the second query that has no results. Still a 500 error. Let's do it again. 3 times. And now we get a 200 response. And if we click render, it's still going to be the same data. That's not going to change. But this allowed us to see that the original query has 3 columns. And if we do it one more time to 4, this should error out again. So this is a way of trial and error effectively. But we did find out that it has 3 columns in that case. Again, press send. There we go. Now a bonus for doing this, because notice I had to do these individually and submit the request. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our proxy. I'm going to select one of those requests, and I'm going to send it to Intruder instead. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out all of the attack payload markers, actually. I'm going to go to the end of pets. I'm going to add a payload marker. And payload markers need to have matching. It's almost like a $sign, but it's not. So I need to add 2 of these so it knows, where to input the data in between effectively. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go to payloads. And what we're going to do is we're going to add those union statements here as a list. So it's going to fire these off one by one. So we'll just build it up with union select null dash dash. This will check for 2 values. This will check for 3 values. And this will check for 4 values. All right, so now I'm going to click Start at Top. This just give me a warning because I'm on Burp Suite Community. Click OK. And there we go. So we have all the requests that fired off. And because of our previous research, we know that an invalid query, or one that has bad syntax, is going to have a 500 error, where the legitimate one that does match the number of columns in both statements is going to have a 200 response. So yeah, we can always look at the render. And so this one is good, where the other ones are a 500 response, and they're bad. So this quickly allows us to see that it's a total of 3 columns returned in that original request. So there you go. Hopefully this was a helpful video to help you understand how you can use those union attacks to identify how many columns are returned in the original query. Thank you, and take care.